Welcome to the Coaches Table Podcast, where coaches come to grow personally and professionally through real-world application and online education. Guys, for today's episode, we have Assistant Director of Football Performance, Coach Daniel Johnson. What's going on, brother?
Man, what's going on, KP, man? What's going on? Excited to be here, man.
Man, thanks for having us. Thanks for coming on today, bro. It's such a great day. It's such a pleasure to have you on. I'm super looking forward to this. Tell me about today. I know we were kind of talking a little bit beforehand, but what are you guys up to today?
Yeah, so today is it was a typical Wednesday. Honestly, we just began our two-a-day program, and that's something that Coach Scholes, who's the director here at La Tech, something that he's been doing for quite some time, and that's a bright man that I look up to a lot, and a guy that has paved the way for a lot of coaches in this profession. So we done a two-a-day program, and for this week is just a 6-day program. And it'll be like it's select a few guys who we need to put on mass, put on size, and it'll be a AM and a PM. So it'll be like a 6 a.m. lift. Yeah. We'll have like 13 to 15 guys in there, guys that we're counting on to put on size in certain positions. And workout lasts about an hour. They'll come back a couple hours later and they'll hit a PM lift. So they may go upper, lower, lower, upper, lower, lower, upper, lower, lower, all throughout the week. And then it'll give them about 4 or 5 days off. So that's the start of the day. But a typical Wednesday and Saturday is our extra needs day. So we'll go at 6 o'clock and an 8 o'clock group. So defense is at 6, offense is at 8, and we'll sprinkle in a little few injured guys in those groups as well. And we'll hit it on for about an hour and 15. So the first 25, 30 minutes is FRC. So we're working on some joints, just getting their bodies prepped for the back end of the week. And then Coach Scholes will follow off with a nutrition, just give them some guidelines, give them some more tips on how to go on about their planning for nutrition. And then we'll let them use the last 15 to 20 minutes to go watch film, 20 minutes to 25 minutes on going over coverages, going over plays, just going over some things just to prepare them for spring ball that's coming up.
Awesome, bro. Hey, I want to highlight on that point real fast. A couple of questions. Tell me about your FRC experience. I know that I wouldn't say recently just got it, right? Yeah, tell me about that, man. How was that like? I've been thinking about getting it. I need to get it. I want to get it. But, tell me about that. How was that?
Man, absolutely, dude. I honestly, and this is just another credit to the man next door, man, Coach Dave Scholes, man. He's invested a lot into not only me but into our program itself. And man, I fell in love with FRC. I fell in love with it when I actually began to apply it when I first started at Texas Tech back in fall of 2021. Man, once I received my certificate, once I went through the seminar, shout out to Dr. Spina, who is actually one of the founders of the system, dude, it changed my entire perspective on coaching. I mean, I think that a lot of coaches want to get into FRC, but they figure out their biggest, I guess the biggest block or the one of the biggest or the fewest barriers coaches experience with implementing FRC is the time, because it does take time to teach and it also takes time to implement within a program. And for me and why I'm so excited about it is because it tells me everything I need to know about an athlete before I get into programming. If they have lack of shoulder flexion, they can't put their arm over their head. Okay, maybe programming an overhead snatch or programming an overhead press is not the deal. Well, how I can meet the guy in the middle or meet certain group of athletes in the middle of, if there's a percentile of athletes that can't put their arm over their head, well, maybe we'll start off with a high barbell incline, or maybe we'll start off with a low incline. And then once we can continue to get them better at their joints and being able to flex up at the shoulder over their head, then boom, we can maybe go into some overhead presses. So I think the beautiful thing about FRC is not only does it take time, but it's just like anything else that we invest in our lives. Is if you want something or if you want to be great at something, it definitely takes time. So for me and my experience, it's been beautiful. I've been seeing carryover, especially for myself. I kind of tweaked my left shoulder the other day. And I was actually doing overhead pressing, and the deal is it tweaked on me. And I was so frustrated at myself. But then in the back of my mind, I said, you know what? I need to get a new layer of tissue. I need to begin to get a new layer of tissue layered down so I could be able to get back to overhead pressing. So what I did was, not only did I lighten the intensity, I just went back to my pels and rails. And the whole and we can go into a whole nother podcast, but you got your pels and rails and then you have your cars. Your pels and rails is you're trying to get more access to that joint. You're trying to create more range in that joint. And
Sure.
then you got your cards is where it's like a hard drive. You're trying to follow up with that new range that you just created. So me,
Yeah.
I was trying to get my nervous system intact, and I was trying to create more of a stimulus, get more tissue layered down. So that way, not only that I'm internally strong, is when I do try to express strength externally, I have access to that. So it's applying it to myself and being able to apply it to athletes. I think coaches try to figure out when can they fit it in. Well, it's no different than what do you think is important in your program. You can fit it in
Right.
near your
Right.
warm-ups. You can fit
Right.
it in at the end as a cool-off. Like it has the intent level has to be at an all-time high. The same way if you would teach a clean, the same way you would
Sure.
teach a squat, a bench press,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
detail has to be the same as if you were doing FRC, if you were doing a regular lift.
Yeah. So, one thing that's I think unique for you guys is obviously you work with football, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you're having, how many guys do you have in each session? What?
Roughly, I'll say around about 20-ish to 30. So like
Okay.
20 to 30. It depends. Now,
Sure.
during this time, obviously you have your transfers and you have guys who have
Right.
graduated in
Right.
XYZ, but your
Right.
summertime is when you have majority of your team complete. So
Yeah.
less roster, but more roster towards the beginning
Yeah.
of camp and stuff.
Well, yeah, and I was asking because the one thing that a lot of people always ask or say or is, well, how do I implement this in a team setting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where I have 70 athletes
Yeah,
and I have an hour because right, time is our limiting factor in regards
absolutely.
of training and same thing. And to your point, I think you made it, and I agree with you. Is you have to make it a priority, right?
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of things that coaches don't have in a program.
Mm-hmm.
And I fall short of this at times too is, we don't have a mobility component of it, or we don't have the ability to say, hey, like you're lacking this area. Let's utilize this tool,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's inside of the training program itself, before, after, or bookend it, however we want to do it. But
Right.
I think one of the biggest things that we hear all the time is, well, how am I going to do that in an hour? And it
Yeah.
just goes to show, well, like what is important to you? And if that is important to you, which, I mean, you can speak on this,
Mm-hmm.
then you're going to take the 10 minutes to do that, right? You're going to
Absolutely.
take the 15 minutes to do that. You're going to take the time both on the front end to educate your athletes
Mm-hmm.
and on the back end, or the time, however long it takes for you, because it doesn't matter because it's that important. So if
Absolutely.
you would kind of talk about that a little bit, right now you guys have 20-ish athletes per session, which I think most people kind of deal with that,
Yeah.
anywhere 20 to 30. But when you guys have your entire team at one time, like how do you guys kind of manage that? How do you foresee FRC fitting inside of that? And what does that kind of look like for you guys when you have 100 plus athletes at one time?
Absolutely. So before I answer your question, it kind of goes back to when we were talking about, the difference between a personal trainer and a collegiate strength
Yep.
conditioning coach in the team setting.
Yep.
I think both have really good value, but you have personal trainers who I think us strength coaches that are in a collegiate setting, we really try to mimic a lot of things that personal trainers do. Personal
Mm,
trainers have time, they have space, they have, I'm not saying all PTs have resources, but I feel like a really good amount have resources to an extent.
sure.
And the reason why I say that is because what we tend to do in the strength conditioning industry is we try to, we all give credit when it's due to somebody that have maybe given us a reference to a book, an article, or an
Yeah.
XYZ. But first and
Hmm.
foremost is when it comes to implementing something new, you got to make sure that it's organized. You need to make sure that it's to where men and women or your athletes are displaying that they're working hard and it makes sense. I think those are the
Yeah.
main three components of if you're implementing anything besides FRC. Now, coming into our program, what I'll do is I normally have a table out, so a table of a stretch table out, and
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
take every single athlete. Now, let's say you have 70 athletes, right? Coaches may look at that as a lot. Use your free time wisely. That's something that's embedded in me ever since I started into this
Yes.
professionally.
Yes.
So
Yes.
when you have 70 guys, well, if I'm working as a strength coach, if I want to implement FRC, it's always an assessment piece because you have to be
Yep.
able to see what range do they have access to. Though that
Hmm.
they may have, shoulder internal rotation at the range, okay, we have to where, boom, you see on this sheet, you can't really see it all the way, but if I was to pull this sheet out,
Yeah.
okay, and
Yeah.
it depends, but if I was to have a pass fail sheet, you are able to now have a table of which guys may have internal rotation, which guys don't have a hip, which guys may have a bad big toe. and we can get into why having a toe in extension is
Yeah,
important. But
huge, huge.
you
Yeah,
keep all of this information. So let's say you have 70 athletes, right? Though you have 70 athletes, use your free time wisely. Be like, okay, you know what? I want to break up and do at least 5 to 10 athletes every hour, every 2 hours, every half an
sure.
hour. You know what?
Hmm.
Let me bring in offensive guys on get the offensive guys, and on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays, let me get O line and receivers on Monday. Let me get running backs and tight ends on Tuesday and whatever specialists on Wednesday. And then on the back end of the week,
Yeah,
do you see how you incrementally break that up to where like it
yeah,
looks like a lot, but it isn't? So what we'll do is we'll take each guy and I'll assess them. And we have something called a bulldog profile. And what that is they'll have a laminated sheet, and not only that, it has their nutrition plan of the amount of times they should eat and just ideas of meals and size servings of how you can serve and XYZ. You also
yeah.
have your joint assessment to where they failed, what is a priority, and what
Mm,
exercises are listed for them to implement within their daily program every single day. Now, boom, that's what we do. Now, let's say if you're a coach and you don't have the time for that at all. I
yeah,
think
because
that
that's a lot of time.
any athlete, what
Let yeah. Go ahead. Go
that
ahead.
will that's breaking down what we do here at Louisiana Tech. Now, let's say you
Yeah,
have
yeah.
a coach that just now implemented or just now received their FRC certification, and
Hmm.
um, they want to implement it within their program. First and foremost, I'm not saying check with your director or check with your head football coach if that's something likable, because there's going to be times where, as the team setting, there may be some free time. You may not want to train the guys. What will you implement
Right.
to make sure that they're getting the best bang for their buck, to where like,
Yeah.
okay, coaches aren't looking at, okay, why are my guys just standing around? They should be sweating balls. They should be doing this. They should be doing that. Well,
Right.
you need to make it a priority to where what is important to their sport. So if you're going to implement FRC, make sure that everybody's on one accord. Bring it to the table before going out and thinking getting a certification is going to get you more cool points in the industry. Because
Sure. Sure. Mm,
I can have all the letters to the side of my name if I like, but if it doesn't fit in the realm of where the director or the head coach sees fit into the schedule,
yep.
then you just got those numbers for nothing. Now everybody's going to stroke your ego because you got letters, but you're not able to apply it. So ran over.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. No, you're good.
when it comes to it, I think all athletes definitely need a shoulder, definitely
Yep.
need a spine, definitely need a hip, and definitely need a good ankle. Okay,
Yeah.
definitely those four. I'm breaking down at least, if I don't want to do it early. And I had this conversation with a coach, man. I had a conversation with a coach last week because he was trying to figure out how could he implement it. And he's at a
Yeah.
Division II school, does a really good job, and he was trying to figure out how could he set it up. I said, man, honestly, if you're implementing FRC, I'm sure NCAA Wednesdays and Saturdays is optional for a lot. Dude, take
Mm,
that hour
mm,
that you have on Wednesdays and
mm.
Saturdays, and if it's
Yep.
optional in the groups that you have, go over just the shoulder and the spine. That's two movements that you can take a whole hour on explaining, getting tactile feedback to where you want to group guys up and showing them the positioning of how to move their spine or how to move at the hip. Or
Yeah.
you get what I'm saying? So once
I,
you once you break it down to where you have Wednesdays and Saturdays, you go 2 to 3 movements. Once guys understand those movements, then you can implement them into your warm up, and then you can implement
yeah.
into a cool down. If that makes sense. I hope I'm not going all over the place, but I
No,
hope it.
no, you're spot on because I agree with that, right? It's
Mm-hmm,
so let me just recap here for those that are listening.
mm-hmm.
So what he's saying is when you guys do this, first of all, have the conversation beforehand with
Yes,
your head coach, your director, the people that maybe you report to or that's who you are. Like make sure that before you go and spend the money and the time to get these additional skills, which are fantastic by the way,
absolutely.
have a plan to implement it for when you get back. And then from that aspect of it, chunk things up, break it up. I'm going to use vertically integrate it just like you would anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So find the days, hey, Tuesday and Thursday, Wednesday and Saturday, Monday and Friday, we are implementing these things by body position and then by, position of your team as well. If you're working with a large team, you guys work with football athletes, so you have the large amount of athletes. Whereas I'm a basketball guy, I don't have as many athletes, so
Yes.
maybe I could do that more often. Maybe I can do two body parts a week or three body parts a week because there's 15, 20 of them compared to 115 of them. It's a pretty big difference. On top of that, what you're saying then is take the time on the front end and the back end to educate, because I think that's what one of our primary jobs is as a coach, is to educate athletes,
Mm-hmm.
because they're going to be athletes for 4 years, 5 years, maybe 6 years with us, right?
Yes.
And then after that, they're not going to be. And yeah, some of them will go to the league and do all that stuff, fantastic, but a lot of them won't. And so I think a lot of our jobs, our primary job is to educate our athletes for when they leave. And how can they
Yes.
continue to get, how can they stay healthy, right? During that component of it, not only while they're playing for us, but then afterwards as well. If we can provide them with the tools and the resources, and they say, hey, like, I know how to put together my own training program. I know how to do this. I know how to do that. And I feel comfortable doing it. And I know why. Again, I know why I'm doing this. It's like, okay, awesome, great. Like, I helped you while you were here,
Mm-hmm.
and now I'm helping you for the 40, 50 years afterwards, which is extremely important as well.
Yes.
So just a quick recap on that. I think it's fantastic. I
Yeah.
would highly recommend everybody to go and get it. I need to go get it myself.
To
I
each his
want to
own, for
go and get it
sure.
myself.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. Right. Like, I want to, I need to, I'm planning to, but everybody that I know and have seen execute it, that has the certification, that actually executes it,
Mm-hmm.
they absolutely love it. Not only do they love it, but the athletes love it. And a lot of times the coaches love it, because an effect of it is when you're doing it in the moment, players are cramping. They're
Yes.
saying,
Which is a good sign.
which
Yes.
is a good
It
sign.
is.
Yeah,
Cramping is actually
exactly.
good. It is actually good. Yes.
Yeah, but that's one of those things where you're saying is like, if we don't always want to break them down or break them off, we
Mm-hmm.
can do something that's going to facilitate recovery, player health, and availability. And you
Bingo.
kind of get that external feedback of like, hey, you're cramping.
Yeah.
And, people are like kind of making fun of you. You're laughing a
Yeah.
little bit.
Yeah. It's yeah.
But people are like, I don't know what they're doing, but they're doing something. I
Yeah.
know that they're doing
Nah, for
something.
sure. No, exactly.
Yeah.
Nah, exactly, bro.
That's
Nah.
awesome, man. Hey, so one of the things that, talking about that and what you were saying earlier is like the flow of it. So
Yes.
like having the flow of like the 5 minutes beforehand, the 5 minutes afterhand. How do you guys with your logistical space, and now everybody's space is different,
Mhm.
right? So recognizing that, but how do you guys kind of try and make your flow, your weight room flow, your work flow? Like, how do you make it good? Like, what do you guys do?
So, I think the best advice that I've received thus far, and I'm gonna shout out to the guy next door again, is when you coach to where everything is in front of you, coach to where you can coach from one
Mm,
position, and
yeah.
when you're dealing with FRC, especially if it's on an extra need type of day, I'll go over an extra need day, and then I'll go over a day of how we'll implement it within our lifts. So you have
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
extra needs day. We bring our guys in. We'll start off. We'll probably start off maybe something small, like we'll do a cat camel. We'll just kind of get the spine prep. And day one of doing cat camel, we have to teach guys of literally how to like segment their spine. And you can do that with a
Yeah.
partner of just like walking their fingers up their back for tactile feedback. And hey, if they begin to flex when your finger is not up to where to flex to, then hey, start over. All right. So you're already getting buy-in from that. But on the extra needs day, we'll bring our guys in, and if I was to have like on a laminated card or whatever, I'll
Yeah.
probably have I'll probably have just this. I'll have a list of priority exercises that we'll hit.
Yep.
Now, before you hit
Yep.
pails and rails, you'll always sit in a 2 minute stretch. All right, that sends a signal down to the desired joint of where you work, and then you will contract from there. So if I got an hour, I'll spend roughly 5 minutes, 5 to 6 minutes on a going internal, like shoulder internal, and then we'll follow with the
Yep.
shoulder car. And you can do a car from multitudes of variations. You can do it on the bench, an
Right.
incline bench, seated, prone. I just listed like 4 or 5 different variations that could cover you for a good amount of time.
A
Yes,
year.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
we'll do a pels and rails. And the beautiful part about it is you can modify the intensity regardless of you modifying the intensity, you're still going to get that signal sent down to that desired joint to expand in that range. So whether you're contracting up
Yeah.
to 30%, 60%, 100%, you'll still get a response. You'll still get a stimuli to actually adapt to. And
Yep.
what we'll do a shoulder with a shoulder car, hip internal or hip external. So once our guys, this is going into year two. Once our guys got a really good understanding, instead of me hitting both, it's, hey guys, right leg up, whichever one you need more work at, get in either hip internal or hip external. And then the guys
Yeah.
already know what to do because we've already gotten a
Yep.
semblance. So start small before you go big. Okay. Figure out
Right.
what guys need
Right.
more work at. Spend everybody, if you're doing FRC, everybody's gonna really need everything if you're being honest with me, just to understand concepts on why
Of
we do
course.
what we do. Because if you don't
Yeah.
need shoulder internal, you'll need shoulder external. You get what I'm saying? Because if you can't rotate in the socket, you won't be able to flex and extend. So same thing with
Sure.
the hip. If you're not able to rotate
Mm,
at the hip properly, you won't be
mm.
able to extend, flex and extend. Why is that important? For multitudes of reasons. Sprinting, cutting, jumping,
Yeah.
whoa, whoa, whoa. But we'll take the extra needs deal and we'll go for an hour. And what I'll do is in the beginning, we'll go maybe 2 or 3 exercises just so they can understand. After every so often of 2 to 3 weeks, we may add an exercise or two, or we may tweak it. You may go ankle
Yeah.
dorsiflexion for the 3 4 weeks, then you may go ankle tilt to where you just point the toe out and bring the knee inward, blocking the knee off. And now we're just
Yeah.
working on being able to tilt properly at the ankle so they can track their knee over the toe. And
Yeah.
you'll build from there. Now, when it's going to the extra knees, bro, it's literally just taking small and building off of that. Like everything that like our extra knees goes by quicker because our guys got a semblance of the system. So start small,
Sure.
start with two or
Sure.
three exercises of a priority of your program and then go from there. Now, if you need to get very specific, somebody may have a patella issue or XYZ, then that's a conversation that they need to have with the coach.
Sure.
That's extra
Yeah.
needs. When it comes into our training and in the beginning of, well, last year, FRC was implemented within our programming a lot, but now it will be like just within the warm up sets. And then, like, it may
Sure.
be just straight sets or whatever the case may be of them just hitting a squat. So we may say squat and then hit a back squat and then hit only during the warm up sets, hit a shoulder, hit a hip internal or hit a hip external. But
Yeah.
then when we get into the work sets, it's ones up, you get your done with squat and twos up, okay, then the rest
Yep.
recover, add weight or whatever, and then
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
into the next deal. So it's more of just a primer. It's just a primer. It's just getting them ready to go.
Yep.
So in the beginning of the year, it will be more implemented. But then now that we got a good resemble of the system, we can now begin to add maybe some more movement, some more supplemental work that they may need to complement them to
Sure.
get bigger or get
Sure.
stronger or get whatever the case may be.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I've been doing with my own training, because I think what
Mm-hmm.
you're saying is fantastic, and I just want to highlight one thing real fast. But one thing
Yeah,
I've been doing with
absolutely.
my own training is like when I've been doing any sort of squats, has been doing like standing hip internal rotation, like more like
Mm-hmm.
perturbations where it's just like super fast and just trying to get like 50 reps in rather than like holding it, but just really like
Yeah,
micro movements. Man, I
yeah.
tell you what, that makes such a freaking difference set to set. It's unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
I do like 30 to 50 reps each one after each set
Mm-hmm.
or just before I go into the next set. I tell you what, it makes such a difference. Like the difference in like how well I feel,
Yes.
one, how the sets feel two, and like how each rep, it's like I feel like I got 2 inches lower on that, and like
Oh,
I drive better, and hip internal rotation, such a powerful position. So like, man, like
bro,
so it's just like
exactly.
it's crazy how just something so small of doing that is like made a
So
world of
small.
difference, or at least has helped.
So
Whether
small.
that's placebo or not doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely, I think I've personally noticed it for myself, for my training as well, and so have my athletes. But
I personally I personally feel like if okay, you get on social media these days, Instagram, Twitter, it's too much fluff. It's too much fluff out
yeah,
here of people saying that they're doing a car, but their lumbar
mm,
is interacting with their hip. Your hip is your hip, not your low back. So when it comes to the content creators or coaches implementing FRC, make sure you're doing it correctly. Because if a person doesn't have a hip, then that means that they need to start doing pels and rails so they can get access to a hip. Not doing a
Yeah.
hip car and they're rounding, compensating in different areas just so they can rotate at the hip.
Yeah.
So I personally
Yeah.
believe that
Because you're
if
just
you
creating space elsewhere.
exactly, and it's
Yep.
going to set you up for injury or something even worse down the line. So I think that's the
Yep.
main important thing is if you're going to also implement it, make sure you know what to coach, how to coach it, when to coach it, and so forth and so on.
Yeah, exactly. So one thing I'd love to ask you, man, over your career so far,
Hmm.
being at a couple of different places, Tech, Houston, and now you're at, LA Tech. What's kind of been your like what's one thing that you've failed, um, or several things that you failed,
Yeah.
and how have you kind of overcome that?
Mhm.
What does that look like? Because everybody has their dark moments. Everybody has, man, my first year I sucked. My
Yeah.
second year I was a little bit better. Like what's one thing that sticks out to you? Like, man, I was not good there, but now fast forward the clock and I'm really good.
You know, it was this quote, that I heard from one of our guys from one of our GAs that was with us at Tech, and Tex Tech, who's here now, and he shared a quote, and he was like, "The moment you feel that you arrive is the moment you'll decline." So I feel like for me, something that I
Mm,
continuously suck at is being so hard on myself over the
yeah.
littlest things, and
Mm,
coaching presence isn't a problem. Like that isn't a problem personally for me, but it's catching things that I may not see that my director or another coach in a higher position may see that I maybe need to pay more attention to. It's all good and gold
okay.
when you can slam chains. It's all good and gold and you see how nothing I said to do with programming. It had nothing to do with my
Yeah.
education. It had nothing to
Yep.
do. It's being a better facilitator. It's being able to catch things that other people can't because coaching is an art to me and it will always like be an art to me because it's things that we can
Mm,
do as a coach or that you may see that can not only prepare you for it as a coach but as a program. So I say for me when it comes from being an intern to where I am now, it's something that I've always feel like I've sucked at is dialing in on things that are not important that are really important, if that makes sense. That
mm,
makes sense. It could be something so simple of just I don't know. It could be something so simple of making sure the GHRs are correct. Like at least
yep.
making sure the alignment is correct so the athletes wouldn't have to do it. That's saving 3 or 4 minutes that you could probably get another
Sure.
round on the rotation of the circuit. So
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
that I must confess is I do a real I do a poor job of putting all the responsibilities I have into one cup. I
Mm,
put all of my responsibilities in one cup and I can't manage that way mentally. So what I've been learning how to
yeah.
do now is being able to ask more questions, being able to have uncomfortable conversations to where if it makes me look stupid or sound stupid, at least I don't F up. At least I'm not putting my program behind. Because one thing that I am
Mm,
is I'm hard on myself. I do not like letting
yeah.
my peers down. I do not like letting my director down, my assistants down, the staff, whomever our interns down. I do not appreciate that because I feel like if I was more locked in enough, then I would be able to put ourselves in a position to succeed. Because I'll never forget there was one time I was with Alan Bishop, who I
Mm,
have a lot of respect for. I'll never forget I was with him in Houston and dude, we were going over dips. Easy, 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 right? And I didn't spot him correctly on the dips. And I got chewed out because of something that small. And I don't know if he remembers it, but I know he'll
yeah.
watch it. But like he literally chewed me out and was like, dude, you're about to go work under one of my mentors who I have a lot of respect for, who's the guy I'm working with now. And you think he's gonna like he got in, he grilled me. And so that's just
Yeah.
I'm always learning to work ahead. I
Yeah.
think that I'm in the present. I'm on
Yep.
KP's show, I'm in the moment,
Sure.
but in the back of my head, I'm
Yeah.
always thinking of what's next. Putting myself in a position to be next or to succeed elsewhere, whether it's out there on
Yeah.
the field with our guys or in here. So, man,
Yeah.
and another thing that I take a lot of pride in is I failed my CSCS like 5 times, like 4 or 5 times, and this is my livelihood. This is my life. This like working with athletes, like being a former athlete. Like this
Yep.
is it's a privilege, man. It's a privilege to be a strength coach,
Yeah.
performance coach, whatever you call yourself. If you're passionate enough in whatever you do, not only will players see it, but they will respect it because you know and they know that you have their best interests. So the fact that I
Yeah.
continuously fail my CSCS, I'm like, nah, I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop. And I eventually passed, and it's like the moment I passed is it was the right time to pass because I
Yeah.
ended up working at Texas
Timing of your
Tech.
life.
Timing of my life, bro. So I'll just say for me, something
Yeah.
that I would just say, just not beat myself up and not beat myself up over things that could be handled by a communication. Having really good confidence. I have confidence, but having super
Yeah. Yeah.
confidence, being so sure to where
Yeah.
like I can do it in my sleep.
Yep. So, I mean, you hit on so much there,
Mm-hmm.
and I absolutely love that. I respect the heck out of Coach Allen Bishop. I
Yeah.
think he's phenomenal on a multitude of levels. But um, one of the things I guess I want to kind of touch on there is a little bit is when we make mistakes, especially kind of in the sports performance world,
Yes.
strength and conditioning. There's times where like we feel like we need to know everything on day one, right?
Yes.
And I'm a victim of this, I think, probably just as much as everybody else, and I just had a conversation about this the other day.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you look at somebody, whoever, a mentor, someone that's been in the field for 10 years, and you're like, how do they get to be so smart, so intelligent? They just look perfect. And you don't see kind of all the mistakes that they make along the way.
Yeah.
But the thing I want to highlight is when we make mistakes, I think we are so hard on ourselves at times. But how did you guys kind of handle that? Because we were all interns, we were all young coaches. How do we kind of handle that to say, hey, look, like, yes, you effed up here. Don't do it again, right? Don't make the same mistake twice, obviously. But how do we give each other more grace? Do we, how do we kind of personally and professionally develop that individual? Because at times, look, like, you're gonna get an ass
Yeah,
chewing.
for sure.
It's just going to happen. Welcome to being an
Yeah.
athlete. Welcome to being in the sports performance space.
Yes.
Welcome to being a man, an adult, a woman. That's just welcome to life. But how do we also kind of maneuver that a little bit to say, I want you to be better, right?
Absolutely, bro. And that's something that I've recently been dealing with myself, just mentally. Um, I would say professionally, I think it's very important to lean on your staff. I think it's very important to lean
Mm,
on your assistants. I think that's why it's such a family oriented vibe here, or it's a family oriented vibe everywhere I've been. Like
sure.
When I was at Mississippi State as an intern back in 18 under Anthony Paroli, he like we get our ass chewed out faithfully, but it was seven of us, and we
Yeah.
just leaned on into each other. And I used, it's like being a team. So when you are getting an ass chewing, like you're not in this. I'm not in this office. Yeah, I'm in this office. I'm by myself. But anytime that I get chewed out or mistake, I go lean on my guy. I go lean on my guys. I go lean on my interns to where the communication is still valid. Because if I'm
Hmm.
unsure, I go ask one of my guys. I go ask one of my interns. And that is the beauty
Yeah.
of this profession. Because when you're on a staff where everybody's on the same page, no matter the mistake, we're all gonna make it. We're all gonna do the extra mile. But if you're on a staff where it's selfish, it's ego, it's testosterone, it's wanting to be right all the
Yeah.
time, we're not going to
Mm,
go any far. I'm going to let you know that right now. And that's the
yep.
thing, no matter the position, KP, no matter the title, and I hope all thousand of viewers are listening, but like it doesn't matter your position in life, whether it's CEO or janitor, it doesn't matter. If you mess up, own up. If you mess up,
Yep.
own up to it. Be able to swallow it and be able to be like, you know what, I was wrong. Now, personally, accept it. I would say accept it
Mm,
to where
mm.
it's okay to be emotional. Just don't allow yourself to deprive. Don't allow yourself to be stuck in that state. If I messed up on a sheet, if I messed up on a session, if anything, we've seen the worst of the worst. We've seen a guy tweak a hammy and all that. And come on, man, that could be ugly.
Yeah.
Own up to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Accept it. If that
Yep.
messes with your mood, what you do is you put the amount of work that you need to put in, you clock out, you go home, and you just sit and understand what you did wrong. And you go to bed
Mm,
and you wake up and you
mm.
turn the page. That's my way of doing it. I don't go and throw a pity party. I don't go around
Yeah.
asking for forgiveness. What I do
Mm,
is, yes, sir, I'm sorry, I was wrong. It won't happen again. You can say that, of course, but by action, you accept it and you follow by action. Have a better attitude
yeah.
about it. Don't be a baby and okay, so and so chewed me out. No, if you get chewed out, when the next workout group comes out, you act like nothing didn't happen. So I feel like it's
Yep.
very important to own it, and it's very important to accept it. So own it professionally, accept it personally.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that 100%. So how do you guys kind of, because you guys have interns, right? You run the internship
Yeah.
program there.
Hmm.
How do you guys kind of portray that with your actions, but then with your words with your interns as well? Because I think at times being an intern in the sports performance space gets a bad rap, and
Hmm.
some are treated well, some are not treated well. Some make one mistake and get ripped apart
Yeah.
and then get written off like you'll never be a good coach ever
Yeah.
again. And then some will make mistake and mistake and mistake and mistake, and then it's like, hey, you're going to be a fantastic coach. So how do you guys kind of do with that with your interns,
Yeah.
and what does that kind of look like for you guys? How do you professionally develop your interns, with saying like, hey, you made a mistake,
Mhm.
but go to the drawing board. What does that kind of look like?
Dude, honestly, man. So here, I am basically the intern coordinator, and
Yeah,
man, had some really good interns this past like since I've been here. We had over 6 or 7 interns who's done a tremendous job. Whether they were here for 2 months, whether they've been here for
yeah,
5, whether they've been here for a season, almost a year, really great interns. And like, man, honestly, bro, and I'm gonna always keep this shit real. I'm gonna always be real. But
yeah,
like
yeah.
how you treat others, you never know when you're gonna need them later on in life. And I'm not,
Mm,
I think older
mm,
coaches, how they handle interns, that's up to them. But how I was treated
yep,
as an intern, I will forever. I have the utmost respect for every single last man that poured into me as an intern. Anthony Paroli, Corey Bechet, Mike Stacchiotti, Tim Rim,
yep,
Fred. Like I have
yeah,
so much respect for the assistants and the head guy when I was there because they allowed me to make mistakes. They knew that I just got done playing football. They knew that I'm soaking wet. So when it comes to me bringing in the intern here at Louisiana Tech, one, I look at their resume. I look at how
sure,
organized it is because how organized a resume is, it shows me how organized they are as a person. So I look at their resume,
yeah,
I'm looking at what they accomplished. I don't care about certs, I don't care about what gym they trained at. I acknowledge that they sent me a resume.
right,
Let's set up a phone call. Set up a phone call. Get the feel of them. Get the feel and see how they're doing, how their day is. Make them feel important as it
yeah,
already because growing up and growing into the profession, it's don't have the interns next to me, and if you have the interns next, and it's like I don't know if you noticed,
yeah,
but they
yep,
will remember that, and they will probably one day
yep,
become one of the best coaches in the world, and you will not have a job, and then now you're going to be out here trying to little boy them or big bro them, and be like, hey man, hey, I love seeing what you're doing. Wait, weren't you just talking? Oh, didn't you just say I'll
yeah,
never amount
yeah,
because I didn't put this out at the time that you wanted, which I get. I respect that.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
it
yeah,
comes a
yeah,
time
yeah,
and place. Obviously, we're in a new day in the world of sensitivity, of everything being so
sure,
sensitive. So
yeah,
I bring in
yeah,
an intern, male or female. I talk them on the phone. I
yep,
discuss, hey man, hey, when would you like to come in for a visit? I think each intern KP should experience what an interview process is like. You don't just bring them in and
yeah,
say, get to work. Give them the whole entire experience. I bring them in, I go upstairs because it's the top and the bottom. So I go on the second floor. I go in. If there's
Yep.
some coaches in, I introduce them. Hey, this is so and so. Make them feel important. Make them feel as if, okay, wait a minute, I'm definitely not going to be a standstill. Bring them down to the weight room, introduce them to the staff, show them our nutrition areas, show them a couple of our equipment. You know, it's La Tech. I wouldn't say it's
Yeah.
Alabama, but we've done a tremendous job of changing this weight room around completely. So just kind of give them a
Sure.
feel, a few spillers of what they do, and then boom, I bring them to this office. I sit them across from me, and we have a normal conversation, just like me and you. We have a conversation, all these things. And what I
Yep.
like for them to do is ask me questions. They already know that it's
Yeah.
unpaid, so they know they're not going to get a dime. So I want them to ask me questions so they can feel like, okay, what is it that I'm getting out of this? And so once
Sure.
we get a good feel and we have a really good conversation, I go over to the man next door, Dave Shows. He fills them out because he's a mind reader. He's an observer. He's going to read you up and down, boom, boom, boom. And then like it'll
Yeah.
be a
Yeah.
15 minute conversation. And then like once they walk out, he'll look at me and good fit. And I'm like, okay. And so then we'll
Cool.
end up coming back in here. We'll get more of a discussion. And then I'm like, hey, so what do you say? Are you 100% interested? And they're like, yeah. And then I'm like, great. What is your size? Boom, boom, boom. What is your pant size? Boom, boom, boom. I'll try to give them at least a shirt, a hoodie.
Yeah.
Give them something. Give them something to feel accepted into what we're doing. And boom, that's all she
Yeah.
wrote. We get into day one. They are not expected to do no coaching or anything. I feel that it is very imperative for you to be honest on what they'll be doing day one. Don't look at maintenance work as a chore. Look at it as we have a lot of boosters. We have a lot of important people coming along to this program and to our program. And
Mm.
they like to see what the facility look like. Do you know that when people come into this program and if they see that all the plates are cleaned and all that, you might have to kind of fluff it up a little bit, but there's a message.
Sure.
It's a
Yeah.
message. And how I wouldn't say how you do anything is how you do everything, but how we look in this weight room is how we look as a staff. And you being a part
Sure.
of that
Yeah.
is going to go even further. The more that you do little, the more opportunities you earn further. So if you can sit here and be like, okay, I'm gonna go wipe down some racks. We're gonna mop every Friday, Wednesday and Friday, whatever the case may be. You put your all into it as if you're gonna coach a one rep max on the back squat. So I feel like with
Sure.
us, what we do as a staff is we bring them in, we show them around, we wrap our arm around them, and then we go from there. It's not we bring them in and we get to work.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, what you said there is really important because um, when I was an intern and I had very good mentors that are still now my mentors, right? That I still
Hmm.
talk to, and that treated me really well, right? Where it was, it's not just go sit over there,
Yeah.
don't talk to me, don't. I did have one experience like that, and I absolutely hated it. I'm not gonna lie, but
Bowman, you remembered it.
the other two yeah, yeah. But the other experiences that I had, absolutely
Hmm.
fantastic. Coach DeMarco at Elon and Zach Dakint at TCU,
Really great
unbelievable
coaches.
people first and
Hmm.
foremost. Yeah, really great coaches, but great people as well. And they treated us like people, like they would take us out to dinner and get to know
Yeah.
us. And hey, let's sit down and have lunch together. And hey, let's get breakfast. Like not every single day, but like they invested in us as
Hmm.
individuals, both as groups and then as individuals as well, which was fantastic. And it was like, hey, yeah, like you're going to do some of these duties. Know that, recognize that, own that, which may be cleaning,
Hmm.
maintenance, and things of that nature. But it was like, that was not like looked down
Hmm.
upon. And it was like, hey, I'm willing to do that because you treat me like a normal individual. And you give me opportunities to mess up. You
Yes.
give me opportunities to, and you've provided me with gear. And I think that's something that is a big deal where it's like, hey, I'm going to give you 3 t-shirts, 5 t-shirts, whatever the case may be. So it looks like you're part of us. You're one of us. And then on top of that, like you said, you bring them to the coaches and introduce them to the coaches. And hey, like, I think a lot of times there's experiences where they're like, don't talk to that person. He's X position. He doesn't know who you are. And it's like, well, at least
At
just have
least
a
just have a
conversation.
conversation.
Like, why can't we just have a conversation with them? Hey, how's it going? I see him every day
You never know
anyways.
when you're gonna get
So
a
why can't
call
I
and
talk
meet
to
them.
him?
You never know.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like I see them every
Yeah.
day. So why can't I just say hi? And they're like, oh, well, like it's just I just think it's
It's
BS,
BS.
man. Just introduce them, say, hey, what's
Hmm.
up? Like if you are running a large thing at a football level, at a basketball, baseball, just say, these are our interns, say hi, introduce them. Not like that's not hard. But I think a lot of people tend to fail
Can
at
I
that,
talk
if I'm
about
being
some
honest with you.
great experience for my career? Dude, I went from intern to GA at
Yeah.
Toledo back to an intern. So think of 21-year-old intern me, and then
Mm,
you have 24-year-old intern me.
yeah.
When I tell you, I'm so grateful just for the experience because going from
Yeah.
football to basketball, shouts out to Coach Sampson, Hall of Famer, like one of the most winningest coaches in college basketball. Like, dude, when I tell you, when you're an intern, it is the easiest job you'll ever have in your entire life, but people treat it as it's the hardest thing ever. I love
Mm,
I love this. And I love being around talent. I love being around culture.
yeah.
I love being around family. So when I'm an intern
Yeah.
that older on that high level of a program, you got to get your stuff in a row. Like you got to get your ducks in a row because you will get
Yep.
X'd out
Yep.
completely. So like that's the thing
Yep.
about it. When you're an intern, you're not just I don't view intern as just an intern. I view it as a step up into wherever you want to go
Yeah.
next. You get what I'm saying? Because
Yep.
you got volunteer,
Yep.
intern, GA, little paid assistant, top assistant, director,
Sure.
all that. But
Yeah. Yeah.
when I was an intern, man, I talk about it so much because I was there for 4 months, and like there was a time where Bishop he gave me a story, and I wasn't thinking of it, and like, dude, I used to bring like two sets of clothes because when I'm on the floor, when I was an intern, I sweat my ass off, bro. Because who am I trying to impress? That's just as an intern. Who am I trying to
Yeah.
impress? So like one day,
Yeah.
we had like prowler relay in the gym. It was like 6 in the morning. It was turned like the guys were getting after it. You got Marcus Sasser. You got all these guys competing who are eventually going to make a lot of money. So I think we had one guy out. I don't know if he got sick. I'm not sure, but there's normally 15 guys.
Sure.
So there was 14, and one group went, the other group came back, and then you have the third group. There was one guy, there was one prowler empty. I had my keys on me. I said, "Shit, I'm going. Let's go." And then like Bishop had his whistle. Bishop had his whistle. He had his whistle. He had his
Yeah.
whistle ready. And
Yeah.
I was in there, and then
Yeah.
Coach Sampson was just looking, and he's like, "Same." I'm talking locked in, 25-8, like locked in. He's just looking.
Yeah.
I guess. And then like I hit the rep, I'll be there. I think I beat everybody about, what I'm saying? But I was kind of green.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I didn't think nothing of it. But then like Bishop
Yeah.
gave me the story is what that I think that's what made me feel accepted into their program because that's what defined their
Mm,
culture. That year, that same
gotcha.
year, two of their starters, I think two of their starters were out for the year. One had a shoulder and then one had a foot, and then like they were
Hmm.
still able to advance to the final four. And so like when
Yeah.
Bishop told me that story, it meant so much to me because that was a like defined moment of what culture is when one guy's down,
Mm,
who's going to step up. So I think that's the
yeah.
same thing as an intern. If I was to get sick and all the teachings that we've taught our interns, what if somebody was sick? And that's something that the man next door teaches us. If I was to be sick, are you prepared to be in my position? And it's something like that is
Yeah.
continuous, like embedded in me, and
Yep.
that I try to share our interns on how to prepare themselves. And
Well,
yeah, that's
yeah, and that's just like life though too, right?
yeah,
Like if you're a leader, okay, if you're a leader, if you're a business owner, if you're somebody that's leading people, your entire goal, your entire job is to teach the person below you how to do your job. Essentially, train yourself out of a job or train those people to your position, right? Like if you're really good, you should be having them not do your job, but training them to do your job. So when the time comes for them to say, who's the next guy that I want? Or, hey, like, are you
yeah,
ready? Right. It's like, yeah, you are. Why? Because you've been doing some of the stuff that I
right,
do. Right. And that's me taking the time to invest in you. I think a lot of times, sometimes universities struggle at
yeah,
that, right? Like I'm the top person, I'm the second, third, fourth, fifth, or I'm the top and the assistant or whatever. Well, how are you helping me get to that position?
hmm
Right? How can I help you get to that position? Right? Is how you got to be thinking of it from like a servant leadership perspective. But I think at times it's like we're like, well, why would I teach them to do my job? Because like now I don't have a job. And it's like, no, you should be doing the same thing for the person above you. Right. Like, hey, how can I help you? What can I take off your plate? How can I understand your role better? How can I understand the decision making process from that standpoint? Because like if you're doing a great job as a leader, your people should be able to do your job and you train them to do your job. So then when an opportunity comes, you're like, I have full confidence
It's
that
gonna
you're going to
answer for you.
absolutely crush it.
Yep. Makes sense.
Exactly. Exactly. Because a lot of times you hear, well, you're not ready. It's like, well, I've been here for 3 years. What do you mean I'm not ready? Like,
Yeah.
what do you mean I'm not ready? What haven't I done or what do I need to do? And then they can't define it. Right. Then they can't define it. And it's just like, well, what do you mean? And they're just like, just stay where you're at, be happy where you're at. And
Exactly.
it's just like, no, that's BS. Like that's BS.
And that
So
goes back to what you
um
said earlier. Like, what are my one of my failures? I would say that is trying
sure.
to live up to such a man who's paved a
Mm,
lot into this program, that's paved a lot into his own career. It's tough. It's tough chasing a rabbit, and
yeah.
that you could feel like you're
Yeah.
succeeding, but if I could just slowly, just centimeter, inch by inch, just continue to go, it'll all make sense.
Yeah. 100%. So one thing I think you have a really interesting take on, and I'd love for you to kind of talk about this is, we have NIL for the athletes,
Yeah, yeah,
that's out there.
yeah.
And look, I am all for people getting paid. I think I'm all for people getting paid. I
Oh
love
man,
love talking about money.
let's
I
go.
absolutely love talking about money.
Yeah,
Okay. And I don't think we talk about money enough in this field. And so I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on this because you have an interesting take. So,
dude.
for those of you that are not familiar with NIL, name, image, likeness, players can get deals, brands, contracts with companies that will pay them money for their name, image, or likeness, which is awesome because now some of our athletes start to get paid, which is fantastic. But I think one of the biggest problems in the college athletic space as a whole is the people that are working as well, the coaches, and I'm going to specifically highlight strength coaches and athletic trainers here as well. Um, they're working for $40,000 a year. Some are $37,000 a year. Some are 35, and they have master's degrees, and they have 3 to 5 years of experience, right? And they're just still in this entry level. Like, I hope you have 5 roommates because you're not going to afford anything, essentially, right? When you're making $37,000, $40,000, and I'm going to even say $50,000, right? But like, talk to me about that. Talk to me about your thought process on this because I think this is freaking
Oh, dude,
awesome.
I'm finna put you on a win. First and foremost, I personally believe that if any coach is out there hating on any of their assistants getting outside money, man, I think, man, I don't think less of you, but I just think that you're being really selfish, especially if you're making three
Mm,
hundred thousand
mm,
and like one of your top assistants is making 70. But that's another conversation.
yeah.
Um, Number two, I personally believe that the reason why coaches aren't getting or it's not accepted yet because I don't know specifically who. There's coaches out here getting NILs. It's no different. Coaches have agents out here. Agents
Mm,
like
mm,
coaches in the top of the percentile of like colleges, Alabama,
sure.
Wisconsin, whatever.
Yeah.
These coaches have agents. Now, do they broadcast it? No. I think the disconnection is it's not the amount of money that they're getting, it's the money that they're getting it from. That is the
Mm,
disconnection, in my personal opinion. I'm finna
mm.
put all of you, especially UKP, on my thought process on how I think that we can all get NIL deals.
Sure,
Boom.
sure.
So, for an example, let's start off with, and NIL doesn't have to be just a buku of money. It could be an actual good
Right,
deal. It could be a lifetime membership at
right.
a nice ass gym. It
Mhm.
could be a year worth of protein powder at a specific company. Us coaches need to stop being scared to put ourselves on the front end. Stop being
Mm,
scared to use
mm.
your social media. I don't care how it looks.
Preach,
I don't care if
preach.
we go viral as hell on this podcast, bro. I don't care.
Yeah,
Coaches need to
yeah.
stop being afraid of putting their content out and tagging other companies or
Yes,
tagging
yes.
people that are familiar with what you're doing.
Yep.
If I'm doing a so let's say I'm working at this really nice
Sure.
gym, right? In
Yep.
California. I'm just throwing out names. And let's say I got my camera, I think people that are influencers, they're giving us the recipe. It's just I don't think that people are looking at how they're doing it. You got your camera up, you make it look nice, all these things.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
you got to make it real. And by real
Yeah.
is, let's
Yeah.
say you got your
Yeah.
boy's clothing brand on, right? Or let's say
Sure.
that you have one Adidas.
Mm-hmm.
Tag Adidas in your content. Now, will Adidas
Yeah.
watch it? Who knows?
Maybe. Maybe not.
But if you use your social media properly enough, maybe one of your guys who coaches out at a school who's good friends with Adidas, I'm just throwing out an example, could probably put you
Sure.
in the
Sure. Sure.
door.
Sure.
So
Mm-hmm.
NILs as a coach, oh my gosh, like I really personally believe that if you're going to do an NIL deal, you got to be a little selfish, but
A little bit.
selfish in a way to where it's appropriate. Okay,
Yep.
because I think oftentimes with coaches is if you post a video, it looks at, oh, you're trying to be about yourself, boom, boom, boom. And it's like, well, you do know that I've worked the deal that if I can post workout videos for this specific company, they'll compensate me $250
Correct.
every video, $200 maybe
Sure.
every video. That's maybe not money, but if you post good videos, quality over quantity, it adds up. So we need to
Yeah.
stop trying to shoot for the big stuff first. Like shoot to where you know it's
Yeah.
reachable. Like shoot a deal
Yeah.
to where like it's it's reachable. Like, hey, bro, I like your shirts, and it's a pretty popular dude. It may not be Nike, but he's got over 100,000 some followers, and a lot of people buy it.
Yeah.
Lululemon. Let's say if it's Lululemon, right? Like
Yeah.
if you do a video with the stuff on, you may not get an NIL deal, but you want to know what is an NIL deal? Them sharing you on their story. So you may got
Sure.
2,000 followers, but Lululemon pay got 500,000. They may not give you no deal, but if they share your post on a 500,000 subscriber page, out of that 500,000, you won't get 1,000. You may get five. And within that
Sure.
five, you never know who of that five that may be blue check or viral that will share it to the next. So I think coaches need to spend less time being scared and actually post their content and be free with it. Be free with it.
Yeah.
Shout out your school.
Yep.
Make sure you shout out La Tech. Give kudos to your school for
Yeah.
you having a platform to
Yep.
do it at. But,
Correct.
you know,
S- So yeah. So I agree with you. I think one of the biggest things that people say, and I'm curious on what you would say to this,
mm,
is they're like, okay, so two things here. One, I think we are at the beginning moments of where strength and conditioning coaches and athletic trainers are becoming more and more respected and compensated
yes,
appropriately, right? Because I was not in the field 10 years ago, when everybody was not making any money. And we're now seeing strength coaches make $1 million, make $450,000, make 600,000, which is
great,
great
great
money.
for the
Don't get me wrong.
profession.
Amazing
Amazing,
for the
bro.
profession. Absolutely amazing for the profession. So the ceiling is rising.
Hmm.
Now, one of the things I think we need to do is get the floor to rise, right? And I think, one of the things that so that's number
Hmm.
one. Sorry, is that we're now, and I need to acknowledge that because we are at the beginning moments of that, and I think it's only going to increase over the next years and years and
Hmm.
years and
Oh
years.
yeah,
On top of that, if you're a coach and you're working for a team and you are not tapped into their performance bonuses, I think you highly need to have a conversation with that.
definitely.
Hey, if I'm working with this one specific team, if I'm working with just basketball, if I'm working with just football, if I'm working with just baseball, if I'm working with volleyball, whatever, you need to have a conversation and say, hey, because all the other coaches are getting performance bonuses. So you should as well, right? Like, absolutely. If
Hmm.
you're the one putting in the time, effort, and energy for that, you should get part of that performance bonus as well, or be on the same contract as that. So as a strength coach, don't be afraid to advocate for yourself to be like, I want the performance bonuses that the other people get as well, or at least write one up for me and we can have a conversation about that. On top of that,
Exactly.
um, people will be like, oh, if I post on social media or if I'm getting time outside that I'm training other people or that I'm working on a side hustle or whatever, people say, you're not committed to
Want
us.
that?
I love that.
Nah, like I'm not.
Yeah.
Like that's a
I
thing.
love
Like
that.
love don't
That's my favorite.
loving what you do does not pay the bills. I'm sorry, but
For
we
real.
have
My
to we
passion is
yeah, like it
yes.
just doesn't pay the
Yes.
bills. And I
Yes.
and I
Yes.
I think, man, you go on Twitter right now, I guarantee you strength conditioning Twitter is gonna have something to say about young coaches. Like they're gonna have something to say about what
Yep.
young coaches are doing and how they're moving. And it's just like, don't
Yep.
knock it unless you try, or don't get upset that you don't know how to
Correct.
utilize your social media the way that us young coaches know how to. Like you can literally get
Correct.
a job from Twitter, not LinkedIn, and
For real.
it's that good.
For
And
real.
the thing is, I've been posting no content, but lately I haven't posted no content lately. And the deal is, you obviously have to have the time for it, but have conversation with people who are successfully doing it. Like you can run it
Yep.
up on this podcast if you wanted to. You just have to
Yep.
have ambassadors. You have to have people that have vouch for you. And if you can have a weekly
Yep.
subscription of this amount of people, they compensate you.
Yep.
YouTube, Twitter, TikTok,
Yep.
like it's right in
Yep.
front of us. So I
Yep.
don't see
Yep.
why
Yep.
not performance coaches can't get a bite of that.
100%. So if you're a coach, if you're an individual, if you're a business owner or somebody that's trying to make some money, let me give you kind of a playbook. All
Mhm.
right. And this is what I think a lot of strength and conditioning coaches or just people in general don't understand is the business side of the things. All right. So number one thing is you need to get media and people that you own.
Yes.
And what I mean by that is you need to develop your own email list. Okay. Social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all have an algorithm
Mhm.
and they only show X percentage of your content to people.
Yes.
And the people you engage with is who's going to see it. The people that engage with you are going to see it.
Mhm.
Okay. The other people that may not, probably won't. So you need to build an email list. Why? Because you can send an email and everybody on that email list will get it. There's no algorithm in the email that says this is not delivered to on top of that media. Okay. So utilize all platforms of social: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok. Yeah, maybe if you want.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, people. I don't have a TikTok,
Yeah.
so
If you want,
you
great,
know.
cool. If not, awesome. Secondly, on top of that, okay, is you have to reach out to people. You have to tag people. You have to engage with people because that's what's going
Yes,
to help you. And then don't be afraid to advocate for yourself. You have to do that. Okay.
don't be
But if
afraid.
you're not building an email list, you're not helping yourself. So use the social media to drive to an email list. Okay. Give out free ebooks, give out programming, give out all that stuff for free and then offer them a next
Mhm.
level tier to work with you. Okay. That's what you have to do.
No.
Okay. Then when you go on YouTube and you can get people that will pay you for ads, take that ad money, right?
Take the
Take that
ad
ad
money.
money, bro.
Yes, it's gonna
It's going to
grow.
grow. Okay. And then, yes, here's another thing. If you're a strength coach working at a university, if you're an athletic trainer working at a university, you know what you have available to you? Undergraduate students that work both in the film departments and also
Mhm.
website design and all these other things. You can go and leverage those individuals to do work for you for free. Okay. Because it
Boom.
does this, it helps build their portfolio and it helps you build
Yes.
your business. So if you're not doing that, you should go and do that. Go talk to the person at communications and be like, I don't know how to write copy. I don't have the time to
Mhm.
learn how to write copy. Can you have somebody do this for me? And I'll trade services for you, right? Simple. Hey, I don't know how
It's
to
that
edit
simple.
videos. You want to edit videos. You're a videographer. Can you do this for me? Because it helps build your platform. It helps them build stuff in their portfolio. Now you're
Mhm.
outsourcing this work for you to help you grow, to
Mhm.
help you get in, whatever the case may be. And now you don't have the time element because that's the number one thing. Oh, well, like I don't have the time to do it. You have the time to go have a 15-minute conversation, and then the 15 minutes and 30 minutes that it's going to take you to constantly communicate with these people every week. Boom, there you go. Ask them for simple things. I need 5 pieces of content every single week, and then just repurpose it on every single platform. There you go.
Mhm.
Now you haven't spent any money. You have content, you have copy, and you have people doing that for you for free while you're trying to build a list and make some money. And then you can take other people and you can take other businesses and then you can reach out to them and be like, hey, this is something that I want to do. Can I get in contact with you? Can I get X percentage
Mhm.
of product for free, and I'll shout you out on my social media platforms, yada, yada, yada. Boom. There you go. Get that performance bonuses in your contract as well. Now you went from $50,000 a year to $120,000 a year, which is pretty decent.
And then you can also add to this is something that I've learned. You can also try to get a percent on the stock. Like, so for
Yeah.
an example, I mean,
Yeah.
if you get a deal with a company, try to get a percentage of their stock, and then boom, 2 years later, you probably a six figure before you can even eclipse six figures. You know what I'm saying?
Or get some equity in that business too. Like, hey, if I mean,
Boom,
like,
it's that simple.
or hey,
Boom.
or if you don't know how to work business deals, so the percentage of the sales that you generate from them, I'll get 10% of the sales that are generated off of my link. Done. Right? Like, those are the conversations that you need to be having, but you have to advocate for yourself, and you have to have the ability
Gotta
to go and
advocate for yourself.
say, what are the resources that I have available to me right now? If you're at a university, you have undergraduate students that want to build their
Mhm.
portfolio, that are willing to do this, that are willing to show you how to do this, that are willing to, even if you pay them $50, $100, whatever.
Build a relationship.
Boom,
Yeah,
exactly. If they don't know
build a
somebody, then,
relationship.
or if they're not the person, they probably know somebody as well. So if you guys aren't doing this to capitalize on your own financial situation, you need to be doing this like
Yeah,
right now. And it doesn't matter what anybody on online says. There's only 2 or 3 people that you care about on their thoughts, anyways. Nobody else freaking cares. So don't worry about that. Just post it. Go record it, post it, make sure it's clean, make sure it's edited, do all that stuff, and then
yeah,
post it and go, and then learn from it. Like, simple, right? Like, it's very, very
facts.
simple. And like you said, the blueprint is in front of us. All these random people
It's
that
in
became
front of us.
influencers, who were they? Nobody knew who they were, right? Nobody knew who they were.
They were just consistent, literally.
Bingo, right?
Took from having 100 followers and just kept building. One like turns into five, five turns 10. It just adds on, and the content has to just. The thing is, what separates you from the other content
Yeah,
creators? Like, what makes you
yeah,
different? You know what I'm saying? And like the same deal with the podcast. I think coaches out here, like you're already taking the step forward of the podcast, and now it's like, all right, I want this to be the best podcast for
yep,
me, not the best podcast in the world. That's great, but like I at least want to start to where like we're getting high level coaches, we're getting practitioners,
yep,
you're getting
yep,
all these people on, and it just becomes a household
yep.
name.
Yeah, exactly.
And
I mean, that's
boom,
that's that's exactly the reason why I named it what I named it, the coach's table, because we all want a seat at
mm-hmm.
the table, and then let's
Yeah,
come take a seat at the table and let's talk. Like, that's who's gonna say no to that, in all honesty. But
I
like,
was gonna
there's
say no,
purpose
nah, sure,
behind it, right? There's purpose behind it. But to that point is like, yes, like, the goal is to,
yeah,
get obviously the best people on the show. The goal is to get not only strength and conditioning coaches, but business leaders, CEOs, chiropractors,
all that,
mental
yeah,
performance, all that stuff, right? So then we can talk to people
mm-hmm.
about wide varieties of topics, because yeah, like, the goal is to help people,
Facts,
So, but
facts,
I don't want to take
big
too much more
facts.
of your time, man. So,
You're good,
you got anything that you want to
you're
wrap
good.
up with?
Nah, man. I'm thankful to be on the show. I think it's important. I hope all coaches, a lot of coaches, experience getting onto a platform as a
Yeah,
podcast. Like your voice is important, and I feel like a lot of coaches don't feel that. I feel like a lot of coaches that in the game for some time that have been doing reinventing the same wheel.
yeah,
I think getting different perspectives on how you can better your program, you can do that with on the podcast. And you don't have to be a social
right,
person. I just feel like being in a new day and age, um, being on everybody has a
yeah,
platform. Everybody. If you're the director of whomever sport, you have a platform. You may not have no social media, but I feel like everybody on this God green earth has a
yeah,
platform. And how you project your voice is how people are going to
mm,
perceive it, how people are going to view it, how people are going to perceive it, and how people are going to view you as a coach and as a person. So, being on a podcast, whether it's fairly new or whether it's pretty old, I think that coaches need to continue to advocate for themselves and be
yeah,
yourself. Be
yep,
yourself, be yourself, be yourself, be yourself. Because makes your job, it makes your life less
yeah,
stressful because can't nobody
yeah,
check you. You're the same person on Twitter, you're the same person on the floor, you're the same person if you go out on a date. You're the same exact person.
hmm
So being on a platform to where you can completely be yourself, I thank you.
Yeah.
because I don't want to undermine myself and the amount of work that I put in and the people that inspired me to be in this chair
Yeah.
that I'm sitting in today. So I want to make sure that I give you full gratitude of thank you for being on the
Oh
podcast
man,
today.
no, thank you. Thank you so much for coming on too and taking the time. Where can people follow you at?
Man,
Yeah.
yeah. Coach D Johnson 01, that's Twitter. Coach Daniel Johnson 01 on Instagram.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome,
yeah.
man. Yeah. Hey, if you're listening, go give him a follow. He's a dog.
For sure. Click that follow
Yeah,
button.
exactly. He's a
Yeah,
dog,
definitely do
and reach
that.
out to him too. Okay, reach out to him, and then hey, look, if
Sure.
you're listening right now and you like this episode, you like what we're doing here, do me a favor, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the follow button, drop a comment, okay, and then most importantly, join my email list too, um, because that's what's really important. Because I'm going to tell you who's coming on before it's released. I'm going to tell you what we're talking about, give you some kind of exclusive stuff. We got stuff coming in the works as well. So if you guys like this, do us a favor, share the show, like, comment, subscribe, go follow Coach Daniel Johnson, and continue to share this with the people that you think would really benefit from it. So appreciate your time today,
For
brother.
sure.
Good luck.
Yes,
Have a
sir.
great
Let's
week,
go.
and we'll talk real soon. All
Yes,
right.
sir. Thank you. Have a
Yes,
great
sir.
week. Thank
Appreciate you.
you.
Thanks, man.
Yes, sir.
See you,
Appreciate
buddy.
you.